Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here. So these new patch notes that have been released from the Path of Exile bros have been leading a lot of people. I've been reading the forums, and I've been reading the Reddits. A lot of people that quit. Like, oh man, my build got nerfed, I give up on this game. Where it's actually the opposite. You see, I've been playing Path of Exile for a very long time, and outside of, I guess, desync, the only thing that really annoyed me about the game is that there was so much potential to create so many different builds. You know, you could practically make anything given the passive tree, given the skill selection, given the game mechanics of how everything works. But in the end, there were maybe like 8 really good builds. And whenever you wanted to make a serious group, whenever you wanted to like win a 1-week race, whenever you wanted to win a 1-month race, whenever you just didn't want to have a super crappy clear speed in a group, then you needed a majority amount of your party to be among this list of 8 or so builds. And with so much potential for diversity, it was really thrown away because of balance. And what they've done in this patch is they've nerfed a lot of these builds that have been so dominant, since I've been playing the game. And now it's reached a level where I actually don't think they've, done it all the way, but they're getting there to the point where other builds are viable. So what do I mean by this? Well, when I was playing closed beta, I was trying to mess around with all the builds, see what's possible, see all that. But then when the 1-week races came along, we had to organize something. We had to organize a group that really worked together very well. And obviously we had a lot of people doing the dual spark totem. Back then you could just go hybrid because the game was really, really easy. So people just did dual spark. Like a lot of people did dual spark. Like some groups had like 4 people using dual spark. And it was just ridiculous because it did so much damage, it added so much group utility, and it was really, really easy to play because there's absolutely no risk of dying with that build if you take it slowly enough, and slowly enough doesn't really mean that slowly because you have 6 totems leading into the next room. So, I got my taste of it there. I was a little bit disappointed, but the game was overall still really good. But things haven't really changed since then. I mean, that was almost, a year ago. And here we are today, and what's the most overpowered build? Oh damn, it's dual totem spark with Shadowron's wrappings and using Righteous Fire, and it's way more overpowered than it was back then, but to be fair, the gear is now available, there's more possible in the game than there was back then, so that's obviously going to be a consequence. But there's all these other builds that are also on the same level. I've been doing the Freeze Pulse build. Yeah, my Freeze Pulse build got nerfed. Let's say it even got nerfed by 30%, which I don't think is going to be the case. But let's just say it's going to be nerfed by 30%. I wouldn't really care that much because it's really, really powerful. And so are builds like EK, so are a few other builds. And on the other, on the flip side of things, we haven't really had an overpowered melee build like ever. And there's good reason to that. So what they've really done in this patch is they've taken the steps required to reach that point where the number of builds that can actually compete each other is increased substantially. They have somewhat done this because they've changed so many things at the same time, but I do feel that after a given amount of time, when people realize the state of the game, when people realize how powerful these builds actually are, it'll probably shrink down, but I think it'll shrink down to a number that's much larger than like 8. So hopefully that'll be the case. But the way they're doing this is, they're nerfing the spark a little bit. I don't think they're nerfing it enough by a long shot. But, they're nerfing Freeze Pulse a little bit, they're nerfing EK a little bit, and they're buffing the melee skills. Now the thing is, in this game, the biggest risk you take is from being next to the monster that you're attacking. So, in my opinion, they could make these melee builds do 10 times the damage, and a lot of people will still see them as inferior, but maybe you'll have one in a group. But the problem with range builds is like, if Spark is on the same level as another build, you're doing the damage through a totem. So your risk is absolutely nothing. So while let's say melee did more damage than Spark, which I don't think it will, but let's just say that's the case, you can have like 5 Sparkers in a group and just clear the instance like nothing. But if you have 5 melees in a group, you're going to encounter like a monster that's not very friendly. Let's say, I don't know, Maze Ball, that's probably going to one-shot you. where you're going to have all the group do nothing. And obviously you're going to have lesser variations of this where you're just going to have really, really powerful monsters, or like reflect, stacked reflect or something like that. And there's all these like hard counters to a lot of these other builds. So they really require to be more powerful. Now, the whole scope of this is that, yes, some of your characters are going to get nerfed, some of your characters are going to get dumped on, but let's be realistic. The guys over at Grinding Gear, they're trying to make people play these new leagues because it's going to be awesome. It's essentially the first ladder reset since open beta, and it's going to have a new rule set, it's going to have new everything. So, yeah, my character is going to get nerfed. I don't really care, and I really think you guys should feel a similar way. Realistically, there's going to be a lot of other builds, a lot more interesting builds, and it'll be a really good opportunity to see what they are, starting from scratch, starting in these more interesting leagues, and hopefully, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months down the line, we'll have a better idea of the situation, we'll have a better idea of what builds are going to be really, really powerful. But as I can tell you now, on the list, you're going to have a variety of dual totem builds just because of their survivability, and you're going to have a variety of ranged builds as well. But hopefully, we'll see some more man mode builds, some more melee builds, some more builds that have some real risk involved in playing, but can maybe, if set up properly, outperform some of the so dominant ranged builds that have really disappointed me so far. Because let's get realistic, I don't want to play in a group that has nothing but sparkers in it. It's just kind of meh. It just seems that there's so much potential with this game, and maybe now we'll see a little bit more of it. And overall, yes, some builds will get nerfed, but it's a really, really good thing for the game, and I hope you guys see it this way as well. So we'll see what happens, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.